Today I want to talk to you about the Tentacle Sync TrackE and the Tentacle Sync E. Now let's look at the TrackE and check out some of its features. Looking at it, you'll notice that there are no screens and there's only a few LED lights in order for us to kind of gauge what's happening with the recorder. Over here, you have a USB-C input that allows you to charge the device, and it also allows you to transfer data from the device to your computer, which is really neat. And it's the only way that we've been using this to transfer data. Talking about data, you have your SD card holder on the side, so you can undo this and your SD card lives right in there. I've never taken the SD card out just because this is a little bit clunky to take out. On the other side, you have your toggle switch, and this toggle switch is going to do a couple things. If you hold it down, it'll turn the device on and off, and you'll see how long it takes to turn off. And let's turn it back on. Let's turn it on. Now you can also push this toggle up, but there's a few other things that you can do with the app to configure this toggle up, which is really nice, and we'll get into that in just a second. On the top, you have a 3.5 locking input jack and an output here. Now the output you can monitor through headphones, but only while the device is not recording. Once it starts recording, then that output goes away. And that is about it. You also have this belt clip here, which is really nice, and then some interchangeable bands, which this device comes in a couple colors. So that is the TrackE looking at it from the outside. Now let's look at the SyncID. Now the SyncID is very similar. You have your band here, and you can change the color of the band by removing this. At the bottom, you have your 3.5 millimeter timecode input and output. And then on the top, you have your USB-C charging cable with an LED light to indicate whether it is actually in time, or if it's charging, or if it's charged. And then on the very front, right up in the middle above the band, you have a little microphone. And this is important. I think this is one of the biggest selling point for us when it came to timecode using an audio input. Is one of the channels will generate timecode, and then the other channel will have scratch audio, which is really nice in case you do want to use some of that audio for your films. On the back of the timecode SyncID, you have a Velcro built-in back. You can't take this off, but this is really nice because this SyncID comes with Velcro pads that you can use to attach to multiple cameras or surfaces depending on what you're using. The TrackE and the SyncID come with its own accessories. Now, something like this for the SyncID, a little pouch comes in handy, so we've actually used this for multiple cables, but you also get 3.5 millimeter cables to attach to your SyncID. And for your TrackE, we got the recorder version only because we do have our own mics, but I'm sure that it comes with extra things if you get the one with the mic. They come with locking clips for the SyncID. So if you can see right up here, it's got a little locking groove, and this groove just allows you to slide in a 3.5 millimeter lock for this cable. So it'll look like this, and then it just slides into place to lock the cable, which is really nice. Now we are using some of these Kondor blue housing mounts, and they don't allow us to mount the little clip, but it's preference. We don't find it very useful when it comes to it, but it's there in case you need it. So how do we use the TrackE and the SyncID in our workflow? Well, as wedding filmmakers, we use the TrackE for our bride, our groom, our officiant, and anyone else giving a toast or a speech during the wedding day. This allows us to capture 32-bit float audio and allows us to really just have this on all day without worrying about battery life, without worrying about this thing dying. So this makes everything a little bit easier. There's peace of mind when it comes to this device in our workflow. Now with the SyncID, this has an even longer battery life, so we don't have to worry at all. We can keep this on all day. And this actually jams our FX3 and our FX30, which is really nice because we don't have to go into the audio jack for timecode. Now with the A7S3, we do have to go into the audio jack for timecode, but we'll look at how that works in post using the Tentacle Sync Studio app for Mac. I also want to show you how we use the Tentacle Sync E with our Zoom F6. We have a little Velcro pad that came with the Sync E, so we actually attach this to the Zoom recorder, and this 3.5 millimeter goes into the timecode in jack here, and that just allows us to feed timecode into the recorder and have accurate timecode. So when we go in post, we drag those files in and they're all in sync. Now that you've seen how we've integrated this into our workflow, I want to show you how easy it is to sync this up using the Tentacle Sync Studio app on Mac. Okay, so here on Tentacle Sync Studio, I have it open and I have a couple of files that I'm gonna drag in that I know are time coded, and it's gonna be this one here from our FX3, this one here from our FX30, and then here is the A7S3. Now I know that it was these two recorders that were a part of all of this. And you can see here, this makes everything super easy to just kind of see what's happening. And you can tell that this has audio timecode and these do not. The FX30 and the FX3 have an embedded timecode because we're able to embed some of that timecode without having to put it into the 3.5 millimeter audio jack. Now from here, we can do a couple things. We can organize it into groups so that Tentacle Sync Studio knows how to sync it, or it will automatically detect some of these groups, but I just like making sure that I tell it where they're at and how to separate these groups. Now once we have them all grouped together, we're going to go right over to Sync Map, and you can see that we've synced up. Let's expand this a little bit. We've synced up our cameras right where we want them. This one got blocked by this one guy, but I just wanted to show you how quick and easy it is to use Tentacle Sync, whether you're using an audio input for your timecode or you're jamming some of this timecode. Now from here, you can export as an XML into Final Cut or Premiere Pro. We use Final Cut, so we would do that. And this creates a whole multicam and a whole sequence that you're able to do whatever you want with it. And it's all ready to go. It's all synced, multicam, so you don't have to spend a lot of time putting together these multicams for, specific events, especially on a wedding day. From here, there's another thing you can do. So I mentioned that you have your audio timecode on one channel and then your scratch audio on the other. If you want to embed the audio timecode into your file, you can do that by going to the file that has the audio timecode and then going over here to export media. And you'll notice that you can do original media with embedded timecode. And then you would export that, and what would happen is, instead of having audio timecode, you would be able to preview that file with your scratch audio, and that would have timecode embedded into the actual file itself. Now it does take a little bit longer depending on how many clips you have, but this is just an easy way for you to have a lot of these files without having to do multiple exports or trying to figure things out or panning left and right in your software. So the Tentacle Sync Studio is a really easy, really simple app to use. Doesn't take a lot to recognize what's happening, and I do believe that it's laid out in a way that is almost foolproof. Again, we really enjoy it, and it's probably the best one and easiest one to use. Okay, so who is the Tentacle Sync TrackE and the Tentacle Sync E for? I think because they are the same company and they have their own ecosystem, they're gonna work flawlessly no matter what. You'll find yourself really wanting to use these two devices hand in hand, and I wouldn't use them with anything else. If you are somebody that's looking for 32-bit float, this is a great recorder, but there are other options that might be even better for you, like the Zoom F2. If you're not looking for timecode, then this is a great option, or the Zoom F2 is also a great option. But if you're looking to integrate timecode into your workflow, then I suggest picking up a TrackE and a SyncID for that case. And timecode is going to be really beneficial for people that are shooting all day and multiple events happening during that day that you need to sync up. And you can sync up a whole day in a click of a button, and that just makes things so much easier, and it makes timecode worth it. If you're not looking for timecode, you can still use the TrackE as your main recorder, as your 32-bit float recorder, and it's going to do a fantastic job. They have the option for just the recorder, and that goes for $249 as of this video. They have the option for the recorder and the mic, which goes for $349. And the SyncID goes for $299 for a single version or a single pack, and then $399 for a dual pack. And honestly, you can't go wrong with either one of these devices. They're both great. They hit a lot of the boxes that I appreciate as a wedding videographer. The one gripe I do have about the TrackE is just the size of it. Coming from the Zoom F2s, which are a lot smaller, this does feel a little bit bigger, but it's not so big that it's clunky. It's almost the perfect size when it comes to how big I would love a recorder to be, and this is just fine. So it's not a deal breaker, but it is something that I've noticed coming from the Zoom F2. Now, I also want to give you an overview of the app and how that looks like. So let's dive in. Right over here, you can see I have a couple of devices already registered to the app. And on the top, you see it says devices have to be synchronized. That's because I turned one of these SyncIDs on and it's not yet synchronized. So let's go ahead and do that. There's a couple of ways that you can do that. Number one is by touching or pushing this little synchronize button on the bottom left. You can also start and stop recording on the app using all recorders, which is really nice. But instead of clicking this to sync up all of the devices, I already have one going and I want to use that as my master device. So I'll touch that, scroll down, and then right here where it says sync to this device, touch that, and then you can sync all, or you can sync red mode only, which means the ones that aren't synced at this moment. We're gonna do sync all. And it's gonna do its process. It's gonna actually start syncing some of this stuff. It'll verify the sync, and then it'll tell you that it is done. Boom. I don't have a cable connected, so it actually gives you some of these prompts. And I think this is super beneficial, that you can have an overview of what's happening with your recorders and with your SyncID all in one app. From here, if you go to one of the TrackEs, you can actually change the side toggle, which is what I talked about earlier. We're gonna go to settings here. You can do a couple of things. You can switch from 24-bit to 32-bit float. You can do an auto off power time of never, headphone levels, LED brightness, which is really nice. LED, like there's a lot of things that you can do with this app. And then here's the one important one where it says user switch assignment. You can change that. By default, it's gonna say start and stop playback, but I have it set to not used because I've actually found that when you click up, it is very easy to start and stop recording, and I don't want to risk that, so I actually use the app for that feature. So I start and stop recording using the app and not the device itself. If you're a person that doesn't have their phone during the shoot, then I would not do this, but for us, it just makes sense. You can format the card here. And another thing that you should know is whenever you go to rename this, then that would be the file name for that recording after you've renamed it, which is really neat. So if you're changing talent and you have this just one device, you can always rename it and have those files organized before you even get into your editing software. Another thing that you can do is monitor the audio through the app, which is good. It's not the best, but it works. You do have to be in proximity of the device in order for it to get a really good connection and send some of that audio. It does have a little bit of a delay. I don't use it, but it's there. It's nice to have. There is another app called the Time Bar, and the Time Bar just allows you to use this as a slate of some sort and also use a beta QR timecode for the GoPro system. So let's go into our Cam 1 timecode device, and you can see that it is using a QR timecode with the timecode, the date, and the device, which is really nice. And if you flip it over this way, you have the same thing. You can get rid of the QR code and just have timecode displayed like this. So if you have a device that doesn't have an input, like an audio input, or you just want to have this to use as a slate, then it is available. I think this is a really nice feature. I don't see myself using it, but it's there in case I ever do want to use it. So that's it. The Tentacle Sync, TrackE, and the SyncID. A great system if you want to integrate timecode. It's simple, it's easy, and honestly, it's kind of fun to use. I try to use it as much as I can just because it's fun, it's easy, and it integrates seamlessly with our workflow. From the app to the software to the actual devices, it just works. And I think that's the one thing I really want and enjoy in anything that I add to my workflow. The simplicity and not having to deal with the headache of figuring things out. So I hope you enjoyed this. My name is Aaron. If this was helpful, please subscribe, share this. It would mean the world to me, and I will see you on the next one. I will also have links to these holders below. These are awesome. It just works. It's fun. It's fun to use. I love these little things. Like, look, it's so small. Like, you can mount it just about anywhere. It just works. I don't have to think about it. This is nice. Also, the Velcro doesn't even come off because it's built in. Smart. So smart. Let's see. Oh, I have this side cam right here, and I'm gonna use it for. I have two mounts. Look at this. This is the Lamparté mount, the Tentacle Sync mount here, and this is the Kondor Blue, which is honestly they both have their own purpose, but we love these right here. These are awesome. Look at the notes I wrote for this video. Bunch of notes. Take it. Look at that. All right, that's it. I should stop it.